This is Nasha Kasha, a Ukrainian almanac, 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 19 campus and community radio stations from Newfoundland to British Columbia. I'm your reporter, Stefan Andrusiak. This is episode 215. It is an update. Parts of it were first heard in February of 2017. This episode is dedicated to the memory of Bandurist Andriy Kitasti. Andriy died Monday, June 15, 2020 in San Diego. Born in 1954, he was a singer and instrumentalist with the Ukrainian Bandurist chorus. We bid him eternal memory. Vichnaya pamyat. The Ukrainian Bandura combines the musical characteristics of both the lute and the harp. It produces a sound similar to the harpsichord, but with a wider range and tone. The modern bandura has between 20 and 65 strings. It is tuned like a piano rather than like a guitar. Although the bandura can be used to perform complex works like sonatas or concerti, the Ukrainian bandura has historically been used as an instrument for vocal accompaniment. Here they are in all of their glory from their Black Sea Tour album, the Ukrainian Bandurist Chorus and Pisnya про Тютюнника. It is early on a Tuesday morning in February, and I am on the 7:15 commuter train heading east from Toronto to Whitby. It's a 50-minute trip. In this episode of Nasha Kasha, we'll introduce you to a tool and die maker who's dedicated much of his life to building the perfect bandura. His name is Bill Wetzel. Bill picks me up at the train station for a 10-minute car ride to his home, and the first thing he tells me after our exchange of hellos is how some people in the community wouldn't take him seriously because they didn't think his surname sounded Ukrainian.
Okay, hi, my name is Bill Wetzel. I've been a Bandura builder now for over 38 years now. And one of the main problems I've had is my last name. Everybody says it's not Ukrainian, Wetzel. Do you want a coffee or something?
I'd love a coffee, thank you. Thanks, just black, that'd be great. Hello, good morning.
Hi there. I'm Marg.
Marg, I'm Stefan, or Steve. Hi.
Okay, nice to meet you, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Can you tell me about growing up in Oshawa? You were born and raised in Oshawa?
Born up, yes. We lived near the 401 in Oshawa on Simcoe Street. That's where the Ukrainian church is that we went to. They built a new church right in our backyard, actually. And I was altar boy for a bit. And going to school, it was okay, but I didn't speak English till I was in grade 1 when I went to grade school. And that was a little bit difficult for me. It was on the slow side. But other than that, things worked out fine.
From a slow start in school, how did you get into the kind of mathematical precision that you need to become a tool and die maker?
It was just as I went through, it improved quite a bit. And by the time I hit grade 12, which was the finish year, it was pretty good. I was basically chosen out of 6 people to have an apprenticeship at this one firm. So from there, it's a good road. And I got to the point where I was basically the lead hand on the form die. And then after I finished the form die, I built the trim. So these were huge dies, probably the size of a small kitchen, maybe 8 by 10 feet. They really didn't want me to leave, I don't think. And they never let anybody off. It was a good firm to work for. But near the end there, I had enough, and Who Die opened up, and I just had to go there. That was even better.
I have to ask you, how many cuckoo clocks do you have in this place?
2 upstairs on this floor, and maybe downstairs is another 4 or 5. So,
do you love the sound? Do you love the companionship of having ticking and banging and noises?
Well, it's interesting because the kids like it. Because they say they come to the house and it's just like a heartbeat, part of the house.
Why the Bandura?
Well, when I worked for GM, I got interested in Banduras. I was on the arts console at General Motors, and I decided I needed to build something from my past. So I built a Bandura. I was going to Detroit on a regular basis, and so I met up with Honcharenko, who spent a lot of time with me. And after 6 or 8 months, I built 3 instruments at home, brought him back to Honcharenko and showed him, and he said, now, he says, I can retire again. The business is yours, which was a great start.
Wow. So Mr. Honcharenko, what was his first name?
Alexander.
And Alexander Honcharenko was the premier Bandura builder?
Him and his brother ran the Detroit Bandura group.
How did you know you were good? You could be doing something for a hobby, but then how do you get to that point where you go from something that looks like a bandura to something that sounds wonderful?
The instrument that Honcharenko built was designed in the 40s when they were in Germany. When they came to U.S. and Canada, they perfected on it. They got it better. He told me, don't change anything on it. It doesn't need changing. And I found a little bit of problem with it because he designed them so that they would play well and fall apart very well. So it was a lot of repair work. And when you sell something to somebody, you can't really charge them too much for something that you built to start with that fell apart. But after about 14 instruments, I got the knack of it and changed the ribbing, did this and that, everything he told me not to do because I didn't want to have all that extra work on my hands. So I overbuilt the instrument with all the tension on it. There's almost 4,000 pounds tension on the instrument, 3,000 to 4,000.
Is it common that banduras crack?
Yes, it is quite common. What mostly is the environment, like in somebody's apartment, it's too dry.
And it is?
Oh, it's a concert Bandura. This is what Detroit uses.
And why is it a concert bandura? Because it resonates more?
It's fully chromatic. So we got sharps and flats on the whole instrument. And you just flip a switch, turn these, and you get a sound from half note difference on each one of them. That's what takes long to adjust when you first put it together. It takes you maybe 60, 70 hours to build the instrument and another 50 or 60 hours to tune it in properly.
Бандуристе, орле сизий, добре тобі, брате, маєш крила, маєш силу, є коли літати, тепер летиш в Україну, тебе виглядають, полетів би я з тобою, та хто привітає. Я й тут чужий, одинокий, і на Україні я сирота, мій голубе, як і на чужині. Чого ж серце б'ється, рветься, я там одинокий, одинокий я в країнах, а степи широкі. Там повіє буйнесенький, як брат заговорить, там широкий полі воля, там синіє море, виграває, хвалить Бога, тугу розганяє, там могили з буйним вітром в степу розмовляють, сумуючи, отака їх мова. Було колись, минулося, не вернеться знову. Полетів би, послухав би, заплакав би з ними, та ба доля приборкала між людьми чужими. Бандуристе, орле сизий, добре тобі, брате, маєш крила, маєш силу, є коли літати, тепер летиш в Україну, тебе виглядають, полетів би я з тобою, та хто привітає.
That was Alexander Kasha, originally from the very popular Ukrainian rock group Fata Morgana. Alexander wrote that version of Banduriste Orlesizi in honor of the bards of old and of today who relay the history and news about Ukraine and its people in song accompanied on the bandura. This is Bandura's Tetiana Mazur from Ukraine. You can hear more on YouTube. Look for the B&B project, Bandura and Button Accordion. And you're listening to Antonio Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, Summer Storm. caught up with Bill Wetzel at the end of June 2020. He's recovering from surgery, in good spirits, and building 12 student-sized banduras for a music school in Cleveland, Ohio. This next segment with bandurist Victor Michalo was recorded in Toronto well before the COVID-19 pandemic shut down all schools in that city.
Yes. My name's Steve or Stefan.
Attention, please. Mr. Misolo, please come to the school office. Thank you.
Thank you.
100 steps from Toronto's Kensington Market stands Ryerson Community School. It is lunchtime, and I've come here to meet Victor Michalo, a grade 7 homeroom teacher. Victor has his doctorate in music. He is one of the world's preeminent experts on the bandura.
Hello.
And he is a virtuoso bandura player. He is a mountain of a man. Greeting me enthusiastically, we head into his classroom.
Це Віктор Мішалов, я бандурист, народився в Австралії, виріс в Австралії, вчився в Україні, зараз живу в Канаді.
And how did that happen? You were born in Australia, you were educated in Ukraine?
In 1978, I got a government scholarship from the Australia Arts Council, came to North America and studied here. And whilst giving a recital at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, the Soviet consul came up to me and said, how come Australia paid your way to study here in North America? And I told him about it, and he said, would you like to go to Ukraine? I said, sure. And so I got an invitation to go to Ukraine and study at the conservatory in Kyiv.
Which year was this?
Back in 1978.
Was that done then?
It wasn't very common. It was turbulent because you had the Soviets going into Afghanistan in 1980 and the Olympic Games, which were boycotted and things like that. But it gave me a chance to study under the best teachers. It gave me a chance to rub shoulders with all the prominent musicians who are making a name for themselves in Ukraine and the West right now. So it was a very, very good time to study in Ukraine.
How did you come upon the bandura as your instrument of choice?
My grandfather played the bandura a little bit, but during World War II, my father and my grandfather wound up in the camp with the bandura, Capella Banduristi from Detroit, and left such an impact on them that when father had a chance to purchase an instrument, he bought one back in 1968, and I started learning.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CJTR 91.3 FM in Regina, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, on CJSF 90.1 FM in Vancouver, and on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo, British Columbia. When you finished your studies in Ukraine, and I understand that you have a doctorate from Ukraine.
Yeah, I actually did a PhD in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. I didn't think I'd actually get it, but I just went through all the processes. It took extra long time.
And what was the topic of your thesis or this presentation?
It was the Kharkiv Bandura. And what makes it so unique is that my uncle had learned from Nasha, who was the most prominent Bandura player, hard-cue Bandura player, and he had about 60 manuscripts which he took out with him. So I had these manuscripts, and I had also the memoirs and manuscripts from other students of Chodkiewicz who had come out to the West. All that material had been destroyed in Ukraine.
Were you discriminated against in any way because you weren't from Ukraine?
No, I wouldn't say so. You know, it's...
Bill said it was unusual for someone from outside to get a doctorate.
It's very unusual. I had some difficulties with my first professor, who was a member of the Communist Party and whose goal was to make sure that this material wouldn't come out. But I just continued until it did come out.
How long did it take you from beginning to end in Ukraine?
The doctorate took me about 10 years. Right now, I'm doing my postdoctorate right now.
So you are a scholar, you are a musician, and to my ear, you are an innovator as an instrumentalist.
Well,
how does one go from competency to excellence to innovation?
When you really want to do something, you just continue doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. In my particular case, I look for gaps which existed, and I tried filling them in. And being innovative can be difficult, even in the case of Bandura. When I go to Ukraine and give concerts there, I'm original. So they can't compare me really that blatantly to what they have.
Do innovators get into trouble?
Oh, of course. First of all, you try to push things through. You try to get people to understand what you're doing. And sometimes people just don't understand these things. My past 10 years, I've been trying to push through the music which was developed in the 1920s and 30s by Chodkiewicz, using specific banduras, which allow you to use all 10 fingers. So in the process of doing that, we had special banduras made up which allow you to play with all 10 fingers and have a mechanism and produce these particular instruments and started teaching people. But you've got to compete with the people when, I've got a Soviet bandura, I can play one with 3 fingers, that's good enough for me.
Bill says that he's making banduras from fibreglass and that they stay in tune much better.
Yeah, there were some guitars made in the United States, fiberglass backs, and right now the manufacturing, they've gone into making cellos and violins, which professional musicians are using. The instruments have a lot of positive things, and people have worked out how to make instruments which sound very, very good using these materials. And Bill was the first person to manufacture a bandura with a fiberglass back. And this instrument, first of all, because it's not made of wood and it's a solid back, and you can use various different types of materials to the back, the best being carbon fiber, which is a bit expensive right now, but it's there. The wood the back doesn't take in moisture, and as a result doesn't expand or contract, so it doesn't crack. And because it doesn't expand or crack, it doesn't go out of tune. So you have an instrument it stays in tune much longer. And because of the fact that it hasn't any imperfections that wood has, you can make it much thinner, which makes the instrument much lighter.
Do these grade 7 students know who they have as a teacher? Do they realize the treasure they have standing at the front of the class?
I don't make a big issue of it. So some of them have watched some of the YouTube videos and things like that, but I don't make a big issue about it. So I try to get the kids working. That's the most important thing. Десь приблизно 1750 році у трикутнику між Міргородом, Зіньковим і Комишні на Полтавщині. Так що маю таку, знаєте, переглядаючи матеріали, як не тільки те, що сучасна бандура там була створена, але там це колиска феномену кобзарства. І зараз над цим працюю.
Щиро вам дякую.
Дякую. The factory that manufactured banduras in Ukraine burned down in 1991, and it hasn't been rebuilt, right, in 25, 28 years. And everybody in Ukraine is complaining about banduras, they haven't got any and stuff like that. So I tried to suggest to the Ministry of Culture in Ukraine to import banduras from Canada. Bill could get them done as long as they order 200 banduras a year. We could get them done for $100 a pop, half the price of what the Lviv factory is manufacturing. So they had a round table session to discuss it, and they all argued amongst themselves, and everybody said, we'll make them. They never made anything. They never ordered any. It was a bit of a furphy kind of thing, even saying $800. But I thought that we would get some pensioners and be working down in the basement, churning out these fibreglass banduras for Ukraine. But they didn't order them, unfortunately. Zazdrist, they couldn't. I said to them, you're buying keyboards from Japan and China, you're buying guitars from China, but it's a pity that the market isn't there for banduras. And the market isn't there for banduras mainly because Bandura players don't earn anything. Nobody invites them out for concerts these days. Nobody pays them when they perform. So what chances are there of earning enough money to actually buy an instrument? It's not a situation of you going to Kmart and getting a cheap guitar for $100. You have to get something which is handmade.
But some younger people are taking it up with a flourish. Boris Ostapienko being...
That's my student, yeah. So I spent a lot of time with him. And he actually won first prize in Kyiv. They're capable of getting up to a very high level. Unfortunately, there's no income coming in from playing bandura.
Thank you very much. Дуже дякую. This is Viktor Mishalov with variations on Waltzing Matilda. Nasha Kasha is a podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Search for it, won't you? And become a regular subscriber. Subscriptions are free. Завершаємо нашу передачу. Дякую вам за ваш час і за вашу увагу. I gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha is provided by the Shevchenko Foundation and by the Ukrainian Credit Union. I'm your reporter, Stefan Andrusiak. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.